In episode 23, titled Quick Recap, SSP Essentials, we offer a fast but substantive refresher on the core building blocks of a strong system security plan. The System Security Plan, SSP, is less a form and more a living description of how your system works, why its boundaries are credible, and which controls actually operate with repeatable evidence. A reliable SSP reads clearly enough for a newcomer to follow and precise enough for an experienced assessor to verify. Today's recap revisits structure, writing discipline, parameters, environment detail, interconnections, and the operational chapters, configuration, incident response, and contingency, while closing with common traps, quick wins, and a compact memory hook to keep the essentials top of mind. At the structural level, the SSP stands on 5 pillars that keep the narrative coherent: an overview that states purpose and authorization context, an environment description that makes components and hosting transparent, a boundary definition that limits scope to what you can actually vouch for, an interconnections section that names and governs your external ties, and a controls body that explains how requirements are satisfied. The overview sets stakes and ownership so readers know who operates, who authorizes, and what mission the system serves. The environment explains platforms, regions, identities, and data flows in plain language tied to concrete artifacts. The boundary is the contract with yourself: what is included, what is excluded, and how interfaces are policed. Interconnections bind that contract to the outside world, and the controls section turns principle into practice. Parameters deserve their own pass because they translate broad controls into exact operating choices. Parameter selection begins with understanding risk, business tolerance, and regulatory boundaries, then choosing values that can be sustained in production. Those values, such as session lifetimes, password lengths, encryption modes, log retention periods, or review intervals, should be documented alongside the rationale so a future reader understands why these numbers fit this system. Consistency is the second half of the job. Once chosen, parameters propagate into templates, policies, pipelines, and monitoring so that the declared value matches the deployed value. When changes are required, the SSP notes the decision, the approval path, and the effective date, keeping the story straight. Parameters turn secure into something measurable, and measurability is what makes improvement possible. Environment detail is practical, not decorative. The SSP should enumerate major components: applications, services, data stores, message queues, gateways, and the hosting substrates that carry them, whether on-premises, in the cloud, or hybrid. Access paths are spelled out from the user's vantage point and from administrative channels, including identity providers, bastion hosts, and break glass mechanisms. Identity models carry as much weight as networks now, so the plan explains human, service, and machine identities, their issuance, lifecycle events, and typical entitlements. Regions and availability zones appear with purpose: where data lives, where processing occurs, and what legal or resilience reasons drive those placements. This level of clarity allows assessors to map controls to real surfaces and helps operators spot where complexity threatens reliability. Interconnections transform a local design into a federated one, which is the reality for any modern service. The SSP names each external system, the purpose of the connection, and the protections on the line: encryption at rest and in transit, mutual authentication, token scopes, and rate protections. Agreements are more than signatures. The plan summarizes obligations, support windows, change notification expectations, and data handling rules so responders know what to invoke during a disruption. Monitoring is explicit: which side watches which metrics or logs, how anomalies are flagged, and how incidents traverse organizational boundaries without delay. Termination clauses are included because relationships end. The steps to rotate credentials, revoke routes, wipe caches, and attest that data has been deleted must be known before you need them. Interconnections written at this level prevent surprises. Attachments supply the reference material that makes the main narrative verifiable without clogging it. Inventories capture assets, software versions, images, and configurations in a form that can be sampled. Privacy artifacts describe data categories, collection purposes, minimization decisions, and retention agreements, making claims about personal information concrete. Summary tables help orient new readers to control status, inheritance, or shared responsibility without replacing the control narratives themselves. Authorization references point to decisions, conditions, and time bounds so that governance is not a rumor. The key is curation. Attachments should be current, sourced, and labeled so a reader can follow a single thread from claim to artifact without encountering dead ends or stale copies. Configuration management keeps reality close to intention. The SSP explains roles that propose, review, approve, and implement changes, naming tools and repositories where definitions live. Workflows matter because they reveal how risk is considered before a change moves, including required reviews for security, performance, and privacy. Baselines express the starting point: standard images, hardened configurations, and template policies that new systems inherit. Rollback planning is included because it is the safety net that makes teams bold enough to ship fixes without adding new instability during a stressful event. Stating how baselines are checked, scan results, drift reports, or periodic attestations closes the loop, turning configuration management into an assurance function rather than a filing cabinet. Incident response appears in the SSP to prove that control language translates into clear roles, thresholds, and actions when something breaks. Severity levels tie to triggers that matter in your environment. Triage states anchor the transition from suspicion to confirmation. Containment options are named with authority to act and side effects acknowledged. Communications lay out internal and external paths with templates and timing. Exercises convert intent into muscle memory. The SSP does not reprint the entire playbook. It points to the living documents and highlights how the system-specific risks shape the play. That balance prevents duplication while giving assessors confidence that the team can move quickly without improvising under pressure. Contingency planning complements incident response by assuming longer disruptions and focusing on restoration rather than acute containment. Objectives: recovery time objective, RTO, recovery point objective, RPO, and maximum outage frame feasibility, and force trade-offs into the daylight. Backups are described with frequency, retention, isolation, and restoration testing because only tested backups deserve trust. Failover patterns are declared per function. Active-active for the essential path, warm standby where minutes are acceptable, cold builds where hours are tolerable, so no one guesses during a crisis. Restoration tests are measured and recorded, then fed back into design changes and parameter updates. When the SSP ties these elements together, continuity stops being a promise and becomes an operating habit. Common traps are depressingly consistent and mercifully fixable. Documentation drift occurs when teams change systems faster than they update words, eroding trust in the SSP. Inconsistencies creep in when parameters differ between the control narrative, the pipeline templates, and the monitoring thresholds, leading to arguments during assessments. Undocumented responsibilities appear at boundaries. Who owns a shared key vault? Who signs off on an emergency firewall change? Who informs a partner when a token is rotated? And they will emerge at the worst time if not written now. The antidote is simple discipline, single sources of truth, clear owners, and dated updates that admit what changed and why. The SSP survives reality when it is aligned with it. Quick wins help momentum. Catalogs make writing faster by giving teams approved phrases for common controls that can be tailored rather than reinvented. Checklists transform recurring actions into repeatable steps that close evidence gaps and reduce variance across shifts and teams. Playbooks, even one-page versions, shorten response time by putting the first 5 moves and the first 5 contacts in one place. Update cadences, quarterly light passes, and annual deeper reviews keep the SSP synchronized with architecture and policy changes without becoming a never-ending project. These small mechanisms multiply each other. Catalogs speed writing, checklists capture proof, playbooks reduce confusion, and cadences keep the machine humming. The memory hook that ties this recap together is intentionally short. Write clearly, prove repeatedly, update continuously. Write clearly means name the actor, the action, the method, the cadence, and the evidence using plain words a colleague would understand. Prove repeatedly means instrument controls so that their operation produces artifacts by default, then sample those artifacts on a schedule to keep confidence high. Update continuously means accept that change is constant and make the SSP the place where system truth is recorded promptly, with dates and owners so readers do not rely on folklore. That 3-part mantra holds up under pressure because it is actionable and hard to misunderstand. To close, Bring the essentials into one line of sight. A dependable system security plan, SSP, stands on solid structure, disciplined control narratives, defensible parameters, transparent environment detail, governed interconnections, and operational chapters that link configuration, incident response, and contingency into a coherent whole. It avoids traps by aligning words with systems and duties, and it compounds quality through catalogs, checklists, playbooks, and steady update rhythms. The best next action is practical and time-boxed. Rehearse a full SSP walkthrough with the system owner, security lead, and assessor, tracing one control from claim to artifact to monitoring. When that exercise ends with a short punch list and real owners, the document stops being static prose and becomes an instrument of accountability and resilience. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.